Funding for this program was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through a grant from the Pacific Mountain Network Program Fund.
Compelled by infinite curiosity and intrigue, Amos Burg sailed the world many times over, wrote and lectured for National Geographic, was a pioneer in the production of educational films, and was the last man alive to run the mighty rivers of North America before they were dammed. Burg was a true adventurer with a bright and gentle spirit.
I think that a person who wants to adventure has to look after his character and integrity. I would say that being honest and making your life a part of the earth. Up on the Cascade Range, I could see the great snow peak of Mount Hood. And I said to myself, well, someday I'm going to find the source of that river. A great romance in the air, and the feeling that you could do things and that there were possibilities.
The journey of Amos Burg began in Portland, Oregon, 1901. Quiet and contemplative as a boy, Burg spent hours alone exploring the Columbia River sloughs near his home, writing in his journal and reading. These boyhood joys would shape his life.
I remember coming home loaded down with all his books, every one of them. And he says, I just felt hemmed in. I just felt I had to get out. He says, I want to see the world. And Mother didn't say anything. That night, he told his father what he wanted to do, and his father listened. And it wasn't long before he was on his way.
I had a great yen for the sea, being of Norwegian ancestry. And I went to sea at 15. I went to Seattle and walked up and down the waterfront. In those days, a boy could walk up the gangway of a boat and see the captain, get a job. And the whole world was open. You could sail to Bombay and South Africa, South America. They were like magic carpets.
For years, Burg worked aboard transport ships, following his dream to explore the world. He embraced the beauty of each continent and port and found inspiration in the cultures and people. As a merchant marine, he found passages to the Orient and South Seas, to India, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. He sailed to South America, the Caribbean, and to the shores of Europe. He endured gang fights, mutinies, fires, a sandstorm in the Suez Canal, collisions with other ships, and life-threatening storms. He was nearly lost at sea when a wave swept him overboard near the Irish coast.
I like going to sea, you know, but I didn't see any future because I wanted to change ships to go someplace else every voyage. And if you're going to rise in the ranks, you have to stay on one ship. And I didn't like this commuting. Well, I decided to buy a ship of my own, and I bought a 18-foot Old Town canoe.
Burg christened his ship Song of the Winds, and in 1920 launched it into the Snake River with former shipmate Fred Hill. They had no knowledge of river running, but managed to make it all the way to the Pacific Ocean unharmed. Burg found a new thrill and exhilaration in the river journey. The merchant marines had introduced him to interesting lands and cultures, but the voyages were often tedious, whereas the river voyage was challenging, and every bend revealed a new mystery. To pay for his river journeys, Burg continued to work at sea and brought back strands of pearls from the Orient to sell.
And I remember one wonderful story he told me about stopping on a river and going ashore, and there was a big cake sale going on at this church, and he brought out some of his pearls, and everybody left the cakes and pies and swarmed around him, and he sold every strand of pearls that he had. And when he got through, the parson came down to see him, and he said, "You have ruined our cake sale. You know, there's nobody has any money left to buy what's here." And Amos said, "Well, how much would it cost to buy the whole thing?" And the fellow named his price, and Amos bought the whole cake and pie sale. And then he had all the kids there load up the stuff, and they went down to the shore of the river, and they sat there and had this big feast. You know, that was just typical Amos.
There were no boats on the rivers and no canoes, and you felt as though you were sort of king of the river, you know. Those are the days that I enjoyed most, I think, when I was river running, and mostly alone, floating down the Missouri with a little hand phonograph playing over the waves or wetting of the winds, and cooking my meal on a 2-burner stove while I drifted along at 3 miles an hour. But so much of the romance of the sea and the rivers has disappeared. Life seemed to have a stimulation, you know. But with all these gadgets and everything, a person is subordinated to them. The only contact you have with your friends is by telephone. Often nowadays, you know, the images on TV are more vivid to us and more real to us than the real people.
In October of 1924, hobbling on crutches from a knee injury, Burg shipped Song of the Winds to British Columbia, Canada, and began a long, cold, source-to-mouth solo journey down the Columbia River.
And I ran the Columbia River when it was a virgin river, free-flowing. Today there are 18 dams.
I can remember him talking about coming down the Columbia. I mean, he didn't do it in the summertime. And he had to stuff newspapers under his jacket to try and stay warm. He woke up one morning frozen he slept in his canoe, and he woke up frozen into the canoe.
Burg endured tremendous cold and heavy ice flows on the river, but was able to complete the 1,200-mile voyage. On January 7, 1925, he crossed the Columbia River bar into the Pacific Ocean and became the first canoeist to solo the Columbia River from source to mouth.
A friend of mine once described an adventure as the result of poor planning, but Amos's trips or journeys were not adventures so much as an effort, as you say, to satisfy his insatiable curiosity about everything. And of course he was a romantic and a dreamer, but he, unlike many people, always realized that it was only an idea until you did it, and he was determined to do it.
Having experienced the Yellowstone, Missouri, Mississippi, and Columbia rivers, Burg returned to the Snake. He was determined to paddle its entire length and to take the first canoe through Hell's Canyon.
June 1925. I take my pen in hand to write the first words of a great river adventure. Today, Harry Fogelberry and I departed Portland for the headwaters of the Snake River in a bug made from a Model T Ford. There was much speculation on the success of the canoe journey, for we were told no canoeist had ever attempted such a voyage before. The Snake had a lot of dropping to do before we reached the Columbia 1,000 miles to the west.
9 days after launching their canoe, it was battered and swallowed by the rampaging waters of the Snake. Fogelberry abandoned the expedition. However, Burg returned a month later to complete the journey.
I finally got down to what is known as the deepest river canyon in North America, Hell's Canyon. So I got a fellow, an old moonshiner, to help me take the canoes through the canyon. His name was John Mullins. I thought, he being an old rim rocker, you know, that he would be equal to anything. He did claim that he knew every rock in the river. And I assured him that I was sure that he did, because he'd hit about all of them.
Burg's desire to venture and examine the world would not allow him to hold down a regular job. So, in 1924, he decided to go back to school and learn a trade to fit his dream. He studied journalism and photography at Oregon State and at the University of Oregon. And in his fourth year, Burg met with veteran filmmaker Jesse Sill. Sill sent Burg and Hill to the Yukon with a camera.
May 1928. Your job has an important bearing on your aspirations. An idle man is a dead man, for he accomplishes nothing. Idle hands, hearts, and brains make sluggards of us, and we decay mentally, morally, and physically. A lively interest is a saving grace to any man or woman. Make yourself a positive factor in the world, not a negative. July 1928. I cannot tell how romantic and wild it all seemed. The strange, lonely feeling that comes over one in the wilderness and makes him wonder if he is not in touch with the infinite. I can see a spirit in life that seems to make me a part of things, a part of the universal spirit that I know is in the trees, the winds, the rain, the birds, animals, and flowers.
Burg and Hill produced the film Alaskan Wilds, and National Geographic published Burg's account of the adventure. This was a turning point in his life, for he could now earn a living sharing the world with others. Burg finished his university courses in the spring of '29 and headed north with the Dean of Philosophy, Dr. George Rebeck. They began a long, arduous trip down the Athabasca, Slave, and Mackenzie rivers, traveling through Indian villages, trading posts, and mile after mile of raw wilderness. Dr. Rebeck became ill and finally had to take a steamboat home. Burg continued the 2,250-mile Arctic journey to the Yukon River.
July 3rd, 1929. There is an indescribable and inexplicable enchantment that comes to one only at night and in the wilderness. The great, gloomy, unexplored forests assume an air of fascination and mystery. Dark green tops of the spruce outlined against the northwestern sky.
National Geographic published his story and asked him to give a lecture on the Mackenzie trip in Washington, D.C. The presentation was a grand success and launched him onto the lecture circuit.
You always like to feel that you're making some sort of contribution, you know. And so on the various voyages that I made for the Geographic, I gave 7 lectures in Constitution Hall. I lectured for about 10 years on my river voyages, mostly.
Through his lectures and travels, Burg found himself in the company of the great explorers of the time and earned membership in the prestigious Explorers Club of New York.
Here was a man who knew the Arctic explorers, Stefansson, Amundsen, Freuchen. He knew Frederick Dellenbaugh, who was on the second Powell expedition. He knew William Beebe, the first man to dive half a mile in a bathysphere. And he met many of those people, or he went to meet them because he was interested in what they were doing and in taking photographs.
I used to make up my own voyages for the Geographic. because theirs were always much duller than I could think of. And I got a boat, a 26-foot boat, and sailed from Patagonia on the path of Charles Darwin.
Burg sailed his boat, the Dorjan, through the islands of Cape Horn with his companion, Roy Pepper.
January 1934. The day's magic is certainly enhanced by the presence of my companion. His mind is clean like the winds. His spirit is free. The Dorjan leaps like a porpoise and spray dashes over us. We do not mind. The joy of voyaging is in our blood.
I was the cook, the first mate, and all the things that entailed, and that was quite a bit. I did most of the rudder work, steering, and Amos was far more proficient at the navigation and where we were going and what we were doing.
January 1938. Wind, tides, rain, anchorages, passages, breakers become of immediate concern. A choice of passage, an anchorage, is founded upon observation. Like a baby albatross who had flown out of sight of land on his first flight, I navigate by instinct.
He said, I want no possessions unless I can use it on my trips. And to my knowledge, he only had one pair of shoes, or else he kept buying the same kind. And they were black Oxfords. And he wore them in the water, he'd wore them in the sand, he wore them down the Snake River. And he'd just dry them out, and that's all he had, those black Oxfords. And he'd polish them up when he give his lectures.
January 1934. In voyaging through the deep mountain channels, I lived close to the heart of the wilderness, gazing eternally into earth and sky, listening to its secretive confessions. The mind becomes strangely illuminated and focused sharply, and all life, like the life around me, seemed to take on a simple beauty. But the world close around was too big for me to comprehend. We sailed through a fairyland, a giant one, built on a scale only for giant fairies.
Burg was taking the first color photographs of the region and included them in his National Geographic article. He worked for National Geographic until 1954, completing 12 articles. During that time, he also produced 25 educational films for the Encyclopedia Britannica.
There are colorful traditions from a native culture reaching across to Europe and West Africa. In Haiti, there are the mysterious rites and superstitions of voodoo, a religious cult with its roots deep in the African past.
Burg's assignments took him to the Orient, Central and South America, the West Indies, Venezuela, Great Britain, the Mediterranean, and Scandinavia. He was filming in China during World War II and survived 21 air raids by the Japanese. He also worked as a secret agent for the United States in Argentina and Chile. In 1938, Burg was lured by the river's call once again. He and Buzz Holmstrom descended the Green and Colorado rivers 1,300 miles to Boulder Dam. Willis Johnson joined their party to help with the film equipment Burg brought along to record Holmstrom expertly navigating his homemade cedar boat, Julius F. Charlie was the first inflatable ever used on the river, made by Goodrich Rubber Company to Burg's design specifications. As they battled rapids, another battle was brewing in Europe as Hitler was threatening to march.
October 9th, 1938. Slept better last night after informed Hitler had not marched. With my mind filled with oceans, continents, stars, islands, countries, and peoples, I am of the earth. London, Paris, Rome, Berlin, Vienna, Prague are part of my vast possessions, and I shouldn't like to see some maniac destroy them. More and more I should like for my mind to reach out and embrace the earth with neither prejudice nor division, to become part of the vast stream of humanity in this inexhaustible living world. I believe this to be the road to understanding and peace. October 24th. I have been fascinated and exhilarated continually through the chain of 18 marvelous canyons. I do not exult in conquest, for there is none. The river roars on, wild as before, and it has let me live to follow its adventurous, mile-deep pathway. I feel like an ant on the slopes of the Rocky Mountains. The finest pictures are the imperishable ones of starlight and canyon rim recorded on the mind. This moment, I am in the arms of earth and sky and stars and feel like one of them. I am filled with wonderment at life and its vast possibilities.
Burg sold some of the footage to 20th Century Fox, and the film was nominated for an Academy Award in short features.
His life depends upon instant judgment and iron muscles. He's an explorer now. No previous records to guide him. Every foot of the way uncharted, unknown. Hour after hour, day after day, the uneven fight between river and man rages on. No let up, no time out, where it's touch and go between life and death.
Amos was given the first plaque or award by the Western River Guides Association for early and significant trips on rivers in North America. I mean, we can just tick them off, you know, from the Yukon and the Mackenzie and the Slave and the Athabasca, the Columbia, the Snake, the Green, the Colorado, the Mississippi, the Missouri, the Yellowstone. He did them all. Certainly it is significant that he took the first inflatable boat down the Colorado through Grand Canyon. He took the first inflatable boat down the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. He could tell us, as no one else really could, what was there when he went down those rivers.
In 1952, Burg sailed his boat, the Endeavor, to southeast Alaska and settled in Juneau, where he met Carolyn Warren.
He was having to leave and come back, but whenever he came back, he would call me and ask me to put a potato on. And then one time he asked me how I'd like to go down the river with him in a canoe. And I said, "Is that a proposal?" And he said, "Yes." So that's how we were married.
Amos and Carolyn enjoyed the outdoors together with family and friends. However, Burg was often traveling throughout Alaska with the Department of Fish and Game's information office he was asked to establish. Burg produced films and published a magazine until he retired in 1974.
I had opportunities of going up to photograph the tarpon on the northern rivers, filming the caribou migration in the spring. One of the last jobs we did when I worked for them was transporting the muskoxen from Nunivak Island.
When I landed on Nunivak, Eskimos told me there had been no muskoxen on that end of the island for 10 years. As I drank coffee in an Eskimo home, I simply explained my problem to God. Within 10 minutes, an Eskimo came running into the house shouting, "Muskoxen in the village." Another time, I had spent the day filming Dall sheep and had every scene except a lamb cavorting about. I sat down on a rock, took out my script, and said, "God, we have every scene except this one, and I'd sure appreciate a miracle." Then I got up and walked over to the edge of the bluff. Down below me was a large band of sheep. As I descended the slope, the sheep began to move away, leaving a small fluff of white on the ground. The fluff stirred, and up jumped a frisky little lamb.
Each inspiration makes her Mars. The beauty of the stars. There is no beauty in the skies that is not made by mortal eyes. Oh, I just think of that idea that we're more or less all responsible for the beauty around us by the way we look at things and way we see things, and the way we connect ourselves with God.
I know of no one who pursued life with more vigor than Amos Burg, and I think his life was a work of art. And when I look back at what he had accomplished, I can't imagine anybody having filled their life with more achievements.
I don't know. I guess a person has to create their own adventure. Although now it's just the kind that I knew is a little harder to find. I think the adventure of being a real person is not gone. Nobody's ever achieved that yet. I think that there is still that adventure. And I think that if you achieve that adventure, that many things would come to you that you don't know about now, because life has gotten to be such a superficial act that nothing is real. But you get back to the real things and you'd find a lot of adventure.
At the age of 74, Burg's health began to fail, and for the next 10 years, he battled illness.
I remember one time he said to me in a letter, "Court, riding the Sunset Trail isn't what it's made out to be," and it was as close to a protest as I ever heard him come.
And he was packing his bags right to the last minute, you know, ready to go on another trip. Just 10 days before he died, he was packing his bags. He was thinking of a trip.
Amos Burg died on June 11th, 1986. His wife, Carolyn, and friend, Court Conley, sprinkled his ashes along the Columbia River.
Dangers and triumphs over, our freedom is ecstasy. The river flows by in silent majesty. On this beach I taste a moment of perfect peace. Tomorrow our voyage will become a memory, but the fascination of these hazardous steps in the drama of human endeavor is, I hope, only a prologue. For like Ulysses, my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunsets and the baths of all the western stars, and in the end to say, I am part of all that I have met.
Funding for this program was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through a grant from the Pacific Mountain Network Program Fund.